Imagine a sea of gold, stretching endlessly in every direction, a vast, undulating ocean of sand where the horizon blurs into the shimmering heat of the day. This is the Sahara, the great desert of North Africa, a place of quiet majesty and timeless beauty. And here, beneath the endless sky, the Tuareg people have made their home for centuries. In the 18th century, the Tuareg were the silent sovereigns of the dunes, a nomadic people whose lives were shaped by the rhythms of the desert. Their world was one of subtlety, of soft-spoken words, of slow-moving caravans, of nights spent beneath a blanket of stars. This is not a story of conquest or conflict, but of quiet endurance, of the small, steady acts of living that sustained a culture in one of Earth's most unforgiving landscapes. Let us begin by stepping into their world, gently, as the sun rises over the dunes. The Tuareg were not merely survivors of the desert, they were its interpreters. They knew the language of the winds, the shifting moods of the sands, the hidden places where water pooled beneath the earth. Their lives were built around movement, but also around deep-rooted traditions, crafts passed down through generations, meals shared under the twilight, tents woven with care to withstand the desert's whims. In this first chapter, we will explore the land itself, the Sahara, as it was in the 18th century, a place both harsh and strangely generous to those who understood its ways. We will glimpse the Tuareg's seasonal roots, the way they read the stars for guidance, and the quiet, unspoken bonds that tied families and clans together across the emptiness. But let us not rush. The desert teaches patience, and so we will take our time, moving as slowly as a laden camel across the dunes, feeling the warmth of the sand beneath our feet, listening to the whispers of the wind. As the sun climbs higher, let us picture a Tuareg camp at dawn. The air is cool, the sand still holding the night's chill. A few figures move quietly, stirring the embers of last night's fire, preparing the morning tea, the scent of mint and sugar drifting on the breeze. The tents, made of woven goat hair, stand low and sturdy against the wind, their dark shapes contrasting with the pale sands. This is where our journey begins, not with a grand event, but with the soft, everyday moments that filled the Tuareg's world. The way a woman adjusts her indigo veil, the way a man checks the straps of his camel's saddle, the way children stir from sleep, rubbing their eyes in the gentle light. In the next part, we will wander deeper into the camp, observing the making of tools, the weaving of cloth, the rhythms of a morning in the 18th century Sahara. But for now, let the stillness of the desert settle around you. Breathe in the dry, clean air. Listen to the silence, broken only by the occasional sigh of the wind. Close your eyes, if you wish. The desert is patient. It will wait for you. The first light of dawn spills across the Sahara, painting the dunes in pale gold and long-stretching shadows. In a small Tuareg encampment, the night's deep silence gives way to the quiet murmurs of waking life. There is no rush here, no clamor, only the slow, measured movements of people who know the desert's rhythm by heart. Inside one of the low, sturdy tents, a woman stirs. The air is cool, the woven goat hair walls keeping out the night's lingering chill. She rises, adjusting her indigo veil, a deep, rich blue that will fade over time, staining her skin with the mark of her people. Nearby, her husband checks the leather straps of his camel saddle, his hands moving with practiced ease. These are the first motions of the day, unhurried, deliberate, like the turning of the earth itself. Outside, the fire is coaxed back to life. A small copper pot is set over the flames, water and green tea leaves waiting to steep. The Tuareg call this morning ritual a tai, a strong, sweet tea poured from a height to create a frothy surface shared among family and guests. The scent of mint and sugar mingles with the dry desert air, a small luxury in a land of scarcity. Nearby, another woman kneels beside a flat stone, grinding millet into flour with a smooth circular motion. The sound is steady, almost meditative. This grain, stored carefully in leather pouches, will be mixed with water to make tagella, a simple, hearty bread baked in the embers of the fire. It is the foundation of the Tuareg diet, plain but nourishing, a testament to the desert's quiet generosity to those who know its secrets. The animals, too, begin to stir. The camels, those patient ships of the desert, shift in their resting places, their long lashes dusted with sand. A young boy moves among them, checking their tethers, murmuring to them in low tones. To the Tuareg, these creatures are more than beasts of burden. They are companions, their endurance making life in the desert possible. As the sun climbs higher, the camp settles into its morning routines. A man repairs a leather waterskin, his needle moving in and out of the tough hide. A woman dyes a length of cloth in a wooden bowl, the indigo swirling like liquid night. There's no need for words. Each task is known, each movement purposeful. The desert does not reward haste, only patience and care. In our next chapter, we will follow the men as they guide their camels to a hidden well, and the women as they weave stories into their intricate jewelry. But for now, let the warmth of the morning sun lull you, the quiet sounds of the camp like a whispered lullaby. The desert does not hurry, neither shall we. In the Sahara, water is more than a necessity. It is a secret, a treasure passed in whispers from one generation to the next. The Tuareg do not simply find water, they listen for it, reading the desert's subtle signs like a map written in the earth itself. On the outskirts of the camp, two men prepare for the day's most vital task. Their camels kneel patiently, their saddles fitted with empty waterskins made of goat's hide, stitched tight to prevent even a single precious drop from escaping. The older of the men runs a calloused hand along a length of rope, checking for frayed fibers. Even the smallest weakness could mean disaster when drawing water from the depths below. They carry with them a tagle must, not just the indigo veil that shields their faces from the sun and sand, but also a long, coiled measuring rope with notches carved into its length. Each mark represents the arm spans needed to reach water at different wells along their ancestral routes. Some sources lie just an arm's length below the surface. Others require dropping a bucket down a stone-lined shaft deeper than 3 grown men standing tall. The journey to the well is silent, but for the soft shuffle of hooves on gravel. There are no grand oases here, no sparkling pools framed by palm trees, only Fogara, the hidden veins of the desert. Some are mere damp patches and dry riverbeds, where the Tuareg dig elbow deep into the sand until their fingers touch cool moisture. Others are ancient wells, their stone linings worn smooth by centuries of leather buckets drawn up hand over hand. When they reach the day's chosen well, the work is slow and methodical. A leather bucket is lowered, its side stiffened with acacia resin to keep it from collapsing when empty. The younger man leans over the edge, his ear turned toward the darkness, listening for the telltale plunk that signals the bucket has hit the water's surface. It is a skill learned in childhood, interpreting echoes in the dark to judge depths where the eye cannot see. Each skin is filled only 3/4 full, a lesson written in the scars of those who once filled them to bursting, only to watch the precious liquid expand under the day's heat and burst the seams. The last few inches of space allow the skin to swell safely as it warms in the sun. When the tying of the final knot is done, the men pause to drink from a shared wooden cup, savoring the mineral taste of water that has filtered through layers of ancient stone. The return journey is heavier, but no less quiet. The camels walk with measured steps, their loads balanced with practiced care. Back at camp, the water will be portioned out, some for drinking, some for the evening's tea, a small amount reserved for washing hands before meals. Not a drop is wasted. Even the moisture from boiled vegetables will be saved to soften dried meat for the next day's stew. In our next chapter, we will sit beside the fire as the women transform this hard-won water into sustenance, kneading dough for tegela bread, simmering pots of egajira porridge. But for now, let the rhythm of the well rope lull you, the creak of the pulley, the whisper of water meeting leather, the patient certainty of hands that have done this work for lifetimes. As the sun sinks below the dunes, painting the sky in deep violets and burnt oranges, the Tuareg camp transforms into a realm of flickering firelight and murmured conversation. The day's labor gives way to the softer arts of evening, crafts woven by hand, stories half-spoken in the spaces between the silence and the quiet satisfaction of shared meals. Near the central fire, an elder works on a new camel saddle. His knife moves in smooth, practiced strokes, shaping the acacia wood into gentle curves that will rest comfortably on the animal's back for years to come. Every so often, he pauses to rub the surface with a handful of sand, nature's finest sandpaper, smoothing the grain until it shines like silk in the firelight. Nearby, a younger man watches, learning not through instruction, but through the patient osmosis of shared silence. A group of women sit cross-legged around a large wooden platter, crushing millet and barley for tomorrow's bread. The rhythmic grinding is punctuated by quiet laughter and the occasional soft hum of a melody. One of them reaches into a leather pouch, sprinkling a pinch of wild saffron into the mixture, a rare luxury traded from distant oases, lending its golden hue and earthy fragrance to their daily bread. At the edge of the gathering, the evening's third round of tea is being prepared. The pot, blackened by countless fires, sits directly in the embers, the water inside bubbling vigorously before being poured into tiny glasses with deliberate, graceful arcs. The serving order is unspoken, but understood. Elders first, then guests, then family, each glass sweetened with rock sugar, carried hundreds of miles by caravan. One of the younger women works on a pair of earrings, her tools laid out on a scrap of indigo cloth. With a delicate hammer, she taps intricate patterns into a thin sheet of silver, crosses and triangles that echo the shapes of desert plants and distant mountain peaks. Occasionally, she holds the metal up to the fire, letting the flames reveal the design's depth and symmetry. These earrings will one day be part of a daughter's dowry, carrying in their curves the memory of this quiet evening. As the night deepens, the camp's children, who had been playing a quiet game with pebbles in the sand, begin to nod against their mother's shoulders. They are carried to the tents without ceremony, wrapped in woolen blankets woven with patterns that tell of ancestral journeys. The adults remain by the fire's glow, some mending clothes with bone needles and sinew thread, others simply gazing into the flames, their thoughts as private as the desert night. In our next chapter, we will follow the moonlit path of a desert shepherd as he tends his goats among the silver dunes. But for now, let the cadence of the evening settle around you, the whisper of fire, the metallic chime of a craftsman's hammer, the distant call of a night bird. The desert does not measure time in hours, but in these small, perfect moments. Before the sun grows heavy in the sky, when the air still carries the coolness of night, the women of the camp begin one of their most sacred tasks, the transformation of wool into story. Each tuft of fleece, each spun thread, each woven pattern is a silent language passed from mother to daughter, carrying within it the history of journeys taken and seasons endured. Seated on a worn leather mat, an elder woman draws a handful of freshly washed wool across her calf, rolling it gently into loose roving. Her spindle, a simple wooden shaft weighted with a clay disc, twirls between her fingers as she feeds the fibers into its grasp. The motion is hypnotic, the spindle dancing just above the sand as it twists the wool into strong, even thread. Nearby, her granddaughter mimics the motions with less grace but equal concentration, her small hands learning the ancient rhythm through repetition. Against the side of a tent, a narrow backstrap loom stretches a half-finished fabric, taut. The weaver leans back slightly, using the weight of her body to maintain tension as she passes the wooden shuttle back and forth. The design emerging in the wool is deceptively simple, geometric diamonds in indigo and white. But to the Tuareg, these patterns are maps of the desert itself. A zigzag represents the path between wells. A series of dots traces the stars that guide night travelers. A bold stripe marks the boundary between safe grazing lands and the domain of spirits. Finished pieces are made ready for use or trade. A camel blanket receives its final embellishments, long woolen tassels that will flutter with each step of its wearer. A newly completed tagelmust veil is carefully folded, its indigo dye still slightly damp, leaving faint blue fingerprints on the woman's hands as she works. These stains are worn with pride, a visible mark of her craft that will linger for weeks like fading henna. Some textiles are destined for distant markets, fine woven belts to be traded for salt in Agadez, embroidered pouches that will carry cola nuts across the Sahel. Others remain in a camp, growing softer with each passing year. The blanket that swaddled generations of infants, the tent panel that survived a decade of sandstorms, the wedding shawl that grows more precious with each mend and enforcement. As the morning wears on, the weavers pause to stretch their backs and sip mint tea. Their work is never hurried, for they understand what the desert teaches. That strength comes from many small tensions held in careful balance, that beauty grows stitch by patient stitch, and that the most enduring things are made to bend without breaking. In our next chapter, we will wander into the realm of Tuareg metallurgy, where fire and hammer transform Libyan silver into amulets that hold the weight of history. But for now, let your thoughts drift like carded wool on the breeze, light and untroubled, carried aloft by the rhythm of spinning spindles and the whisper of the loom. In the hush of twilight, when the desert sky turns to indigo and the first stars prick through like scattered needles, the metalsmiths begin their work. Their anvils are worn smooth by generations of careful strikes, their tools passed down like whispered secrets. This is when silver speaks, when the heat of day gives way to the cool clarity of night, and the metal becomes most pliable under knowing hands. An old craftsman kneels before his miniature forge, the fire's glow reflecting in the protective amulet around his neck. He reaches into a goatskin pouch and withdraws a rough ingot of Saharan silver, traded from the north months ago, saved for just the right creation. The metal goes into the coals, watched with practiced eyes that know exactly when it reaches the perfect temperature for working, not by clock or sundial, but by the way the surface just begins to shimmer like a mirage on midday sands. First comes the broad strokes, a stone hammer flattening the ingot into a rough disc. Then the delicate work begins. With tools fashioned from antelope bone and hardened steel, the smith coaxes patterns from the metal. The crescent moon of the Tuareg people, the cross of Agadez pointing to the four directions, the triangular eye of the desert that watches for danger. Each strike is precise, yet appears almost effortless, the accumulated wisdom of countless evenings spent in this same posture with this same focus. Nearby, a younger apprentice works on finishing a pendant started the previous night. His hands move carefully with the burnishing stone, smoothing edges that might catch on clothing during long caravan journeys. The final polish comes with a paste made from desert lime and fine sand, rubbed in concentric circles until the silver captures and throws back the firelight. When held up, the piece seems to contain its own miniature star, a tiny, perfect reflection of the night sky above. Tomorrow, these creations will be arranged on dark indigo cloth to show their beauty to fullest effect. Some will adorn Tuareg women, heavy fibulae to clasp their shawls, rings to grace fingers that grind grain and weave tents. Others will travel far across the desert, carried by traders to distant markets where Tuareg silver is prized above all others. But tonight, they simply rest by the smith's side, still warm from their making, absorbing the quiet stories told around the fire. In our next chapter, we'll explore the twilight world of the desert's creatures, how the Tuareg live alongside foxes and fennecs, reading their movements like pages in nature's great book. But for now, let the rhythmic ping of silverwork lull you, each strike a note in the quiet music of craftsmanship, each piece a frozen moment of moonlight, made tangible. The Sahara does not sleep, it breathes. As the last embers of the campfire fade to ash, another world stirs beyond the circle of tents. The Tuareg share their desert not just with wind and stone, but with creatures who have walked these sands since time beyond memory. Their relationship is one of quiet observation, of mutual respect, written in tracks and traces rather than words. Just beyond the grazing camels, where the sand gives way to hard-packed earth, a fennec fox emerges from its burrow. Its enormous ears twitch, capturing sounds humans could never hear. The scratch of a scarab beetle moving through dry grass, the faint vibration of a sand viper coiling beneath the surface. The Tuareg children know this fox, have watched its family for generations. They leave out scraps of dried meat after particularly good hunts, not as offerings, but as acknowledgments, a silent thank you for the fox's role in controlling scorpions and rodents. At the first hint of dawn, the herders rise to check on their goats. They move quietly, careful not to disturb the delicate truce between domestic and wild. The tracks they find in the soft sand tell stories from the night. The zigzag trail of a jerboa's escape from some predator, the feather-light prints of a hoopoe bird searching for insects, the unmistakable five-toed mark of a desert monitor lizard that passed near the water skins. Each mark is noted, read like lines in a familiar book. The Tuareg do not interfere, only observe, knowing these creatures are not invaders in their world, but fellow travelers in this vast golden sea. High above, birds serve as unwitting guides, the circling vultures that signal a recent death, whether animal or lost traveler, the sudden absence of songbirds that warns of a lurking predator, even the tiny desert sparrows, whose morning chatter the Tuareg say can predict the day's winds. Children learn these signs as they learn to walk, absorbing the desert's language through patient observation rather than formal teaching. As full light comes, the nocturnal creatures retreat, but their presence lingers. The women gathering firewood might pause at a patch of disturbed earth where a hedgehog dug for beetle larvae. The men preparing for a journey will note the direction taken by a line of ants carrying seeds back to their nest, a subtle hint about where moisture might be found. Every creature, great and small, becomes part of the Tuareg's unspoken map of the desert. In our next chapter, we will sit with the elders as they share the star stories that guide their journeys, not as myths, but as living maps written in the heavens. But for now, let the desert's quiet symphony lull you, the whisper of wings, the rustle of cautious paws, the endless patient conversation between a people and the land they call home. The Tuareg do not see the night sky as a distant mystery, but as a living map, its constellations as familiar as the lines on their palms. On moonless nights, when the desert becomes a sea of shadows, they walk with faces upturned, reading the heavens not as poets, but as scholars of an ancient practical science. An elder sits cross-legged outside his tent, slowly rotating a simple wooden device in his hands, a takuba, their version of the astrolabe. Its carved markings align with particular stars, helping calculate not just direction, but the optimal seasons for travel. He teaches without words, simply letting the children watch as he sights along the notched edge toward the star they call Talemt, their name for Vega, the fixed point that never leads them astray. In the dust, a mother traces the pattern of the great sand fox, their name for what others call Orion. Her finger connects stars into shapes more practical than mythical. The fox's paw stars indicate when to seek lower ground before flash floods. The caravan's rest cluster signals the coming of cool winds. This is astronomy not of philosophy, but survival, where knowing that one particular red star rises just before dawn in late autumn means the difference between finding water or finding bones. Even on nights when clouds veil the stars, the desert offers guidance. A blind caravan guide demonstrates how to read the dunes themselves, the way longer shadows fall on the northern faces after midday, how particular minerals glitter faintly under certain moonlight conditions. His staff taps rhythmically, listening to the echo that reveals harder ground beneath seemingly uniform sand. The children follow, bare feet, learning to feel what eyes cannot see. In the flickering light of a shielded oil lamp, a rare treasure emerges, a star map passed down through 7 generations. The holes are worn smooth from fingers tracing journeys long completed. New markings have been added over time, not defacing, but continuing the conversation between ancestors and descendants. Here, a small black bead marks a supernova witnessed in 1731. There, a red stain notes the Mars opposition of 1766 that coincided with a devastating drought. As deepest night falls, the navigators share quiet observations. One notes how the position of the Maghreb star has shifted slightly over his lifetime, not with alarm, but with the calm acceptance of people who measure time in generations rather than years. Another points out a satellite star, their term for planets, moving unusually fast tonight. Knowledge that will help calibrate tomorrow's lunar calendar for the upcoming salt caravan. In our next chapter, we will explore the hidden world of desert botany, how the Tuareg harvest medicines from the most unlikely plants, turning thorns into salves and bitter roots into remedies. But for now, let your thoughts drift among these ancient stars, as timeless as the dunes below them, as constant as the people who have trusted their light for uncounted generations. The desert is not barren, only selective with its gifts. Before the sun climbs high enough to bleach the colors from the land, the Tuareg women walk slowly through the scrub, their sharp eyes reading the subtle signs of life where others see only emptiness. Each plant, each mineral holds purpose, not as miracles, but as practical solutions refined over centuries of quiet observation. An elder pauses by a seemingly dead shrub, its gnarled branches twisted by years of wind. With a practiced motion, she scrapes away the brittle outer bark to reveal the inner cambium layer, still green with moisture. This is Tezuit, the desert's hidden reservoir. Chewed slowly, its bitter sap relieves thirst when no water can be found. Boiled into tea, it eases the stomach cramps that plague caravan travelers. Back at camp, another woman prepares the day's medicines. Her stone mortar contains 3 ingredients: powdered aphesis leaves for their antiseptic properties, crushed tebel root to reduce fever, and a pinch of salt from the distant mines of Taoudeni. Mixed with a few precious drops of water, the paste will be applied to wounds under a clean leather bandage, a desert battlefield dressing unchanged since the times of the Garamantes. Near the fire, a respiratory remedy simmers, a dar bush flower steeped with wild honey and a single iron nail. The metal, rusting slightly in the liquid, provides minerals said to strengthen the blood. Children with coughs will breathe its aromatic steam under a wool blanket, while adults sip small cups to clear their minds for navigation. Perhaps most ingenious is their use of the desert itself. Special white sands from particular dunes are collected, baked in clay pots to sterilize them, then used to line water storage vessels, the fine grains acting as natural filters. Other sands rich in minerals are heated and placed in leather pouches as warming pads for aching muscles after long camel rides. Some preparations are destined for trade. Small bottles of Tahat oil pressed from desert roses, believed to ease joint pain. Packets of powdered tamahawk lichen that stops bleeding when packed into wounds. These will travel hundreds of miles along caravan routes, their value measured not in gold, but in their proven ability to make harsh journeys survivable. In our final chapter, we will witness the quiet dignity of departure, how the Tuareg break camp with ceremonial slowness, leaving no trace but carefully arranged stones and perhaps a single buried charm for the next travelers. But for now, let the desert's pharmacy envelop you. The earthy scent of drying herbs, the mineral tang of healing clays, the knowledge that even in apparent emptiness, the land provides. There is a particular silence that comes with leaving. As the stars begin to fade above the Sahara, the Tuareg move through their morning rituals with extra care, knowing each action carries the weight of generations. This is not fleeing nor wandering, but a deliberate unfolding, like the measured opening of a desert flower after rare rain. 3 women work in silent synchrony at the largest tent. Their hands know every knot, every fold of the weathered goat hair fabric. As they dismantle what was home for 17 days, they pause to brush sand from particularly worn patches, not with annoyance, but with something resembling gratitude. These stains and thin spots are the fabric's memory, proof of storms weathered and shelter given. Near the cold fire circle, a teenager packs the kitchen items with ritual precision. A handful of ashes from last night's fire is saved in a twist of leather, seed of the next camp's flames. The prized iron teapot is wrapped in layers of woven grass for protection, while everyday wooden utensils simply get a final rub with sand to clean them before being tossed into their carrying net. The animals sense the coming journey. An old matriarch camel stretches her neck to sniff at the morning wind as her decorative breastplate is secured, its silver charms whispering secrets against her fur. The herder checks each beast's feet for hidden stones, with hands that have performed this inspection 10,000 times, his fingertips reading the animal's health like pages in a familiar book. Even the children participate in the leave-taking. A little girl carefully builds a tiny cairn near where her sleeping mat lay, not as permanent marker, but as temporary witness. The stones are arranged in the Tifinagh script symbol for "We were here," a message for any future travelers who might speak the desert's silent language. Final checks are made without words. A man runs his palm along the edge of his sword scabbard, ensuring no sand will chafe the blade. A woman adjusts the hang of her medicine pouch at her hip, its contents redistributed after last night's treatments. Every item has been considered, not just for utility, but for how it will feel after 6 hours of walking beneath the gathering sun. Then comes the moment of actual departure, not announced, but collectively understood. The caravan forms itself like water finding its course. Elders take their traditional positions at the front, where their knowledge can guide. Young warriors range along the flanks where their eyes are sharpest, and the heart of the group moves with the comforting rhythm of practiced routine. They leave behind circles of stones from cooking fires, now scattered to erase any hierarchy of seating. They leave subtle indentations in the sand that will vanish with the next wind. They leave the essence of what it means to dwell lightly upon the earth, taking only memories, leaving only enough trace to prove they understood the desert's greatest lesson, that all presence is temporary, and true belonging means knowing when to move on. And so, our journey with the 18th century Tuareg comes to a close, not with an ending, but with the quiet assurance of continuance. As the rising sun erases the last shadows of their camp, we're reminded that the desert keeps its secrets well, sharing them only with those willing to move at its own unhurried pace, to listen without demanding, and to appreciate the profound beauty in life's most understated moments.